So, like a lot of people, I was highly anticipating the release of Big Ben Games' Spike Volleyball. Us volleyball sports video games fans are starving out here. There's almost nothing for us. There's a few beach volleyball games, but like nothing in the indoor game for the most part. So when Big Ben Games announced Spike Volleyball, I was like, okay, this could be like the worst thing ever and I'd probably still play it. And that prediction turned out mostly to be true. So, here are my thoughts and impressions of Spike Volleyball for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So why don't we talk about the things that Spike Volleyball does well? Just one sec. The stadiums are nice. They're like well-modeled stadiums. Some of the net physics, they were pretty cool. Yeah, and that's about it. There's not a lot of redeeming qualities of this game, to be honest. The development team was only about 30 people, so it's not like they were investing a ton of resources into this, but oh my goodness, they did not do a good job of executing volleyball gameplay. I'm not sure if even any of them really played volleyball before, and the whole thing is a really janky and buggy mess. And speaking of bugs, this game has more of them than an Alaskan spring. You're going to get players sliding through each other, you're going to get players not going for the ball for no reason, you're going to get blockers not responding to your inputs, you're going to get phantom attackers, which is one of my favorite bugs actually. It's pretty funny. A player will just be standing there and the ball will be like a hit straight down. You'll be like, come on, I didn't know Ghost could hit like that. And these bugs would be a lot more forgivable if the gameplay behind them was at all acceptable. So first of all, my biggest #1 complaint probably with this entire game is that the sets are just so high and slow. It's like every single set is like a 10-meter, at a minimum, high ball. So there's no speed. Speed is one of the most important parts of volleyball. It's what makes the sport unique and such a fun game to play. And absolutely none of that is translated into this game. Attacking is better than setting, but not by that much. It is pretty satisfying to get a kill around the block, hitting it straight to the floor, but one of the issues is that unless you're hitting an inside cross attack, which I found was by far the most effective attack in this game, regardless of how good my players were, how good the blockers were, whether I was playing with men or women, that inside cross shot was pretty much the only way to have the ball hit the floor and not score on some like weird tool or attack under the block or something like that, which is related to another issue, which is also related to blocking, which I'll go over in a bit, and that's like a lot of attacks go under the block, which does happen in real life. It does happen maybe once every like 20-25 hits or so, but I would say in this game it's like close to 70-80% of attacks just roll underneath the blocker's hands like that. And the reason for this is that every blocker in this game has like a 60-inch vertical. And for the woman, it's even more. It's hilarious. You guys can just see these clips of blockers just, they have their feet at the bottom of the tape. The women have like their waists above the net. Obviously incredibly unrealistic. And they all jump the same height and they all jump that high every time. And they all usually jumped in perfect unison every time. When you're blocking, you're supposed to pick which side to go to. Like either you jump with the middle or you go to each side, which is a good idea. I like the idea of having to predict what your opponent's gonna do and punish them if you read their setting correctly and you send all your blockers over to the right target. But the difference between when you correctly read a set and send your blockers there versus when you just press the X button and somehow get a block up, not really any difference. In fact, a lot of the time having blockers there is a hindrance because they're very likely to be scored on rather than your back row defenders picking up the ball. The animations in this game are pretty brutal too. One of the things I don't understand is why the ball never ever connects with the hands while attacking. I'll show you guys some clips here. Like people are always either hitting it with their elbow or literally like 2 feet above their head. I'm not a game designer or animator, but having the ball connect with the hand on every attack would have made this game look a lot better and also provide crucial feedback for players on like how your attack is working and if it's working well. The animations for receiving, serving, and passing are actually pretty good. Seems to be a pretty good variety of them and reflect different ball situations. But it's almost like they ran out of time when they got to setting, attacking, and blocking. We're just like, oh, the game comes out in 2 weeks. All right, 1 animation for blocking, 1 animation for hitting, 2 animations for setting, a kneeling set, and a diving bump set. Those are only 2 animations. Those are the only 2 things in volleyball. No one needs anything else other than that. They do have commentators that make introductory and closing remarks on each game, but I just want you guys to listen to this and tell me this isn't the same guy doing 2 different voices pretending to be 2 different people. Just let me know what you think.
And the match comes to an end with this last move. The final score is 2-0. A narrow win for the Italian team, who was facing a somewhat tenacious opponent.
Yes, indeed, they fought very hard, and we can tell from the score that it wasn't an easy game. They came away with the win, and that's what's important.
And with that result, we're off. See you again soon for more volleyball action.
I swear that's the same guy doing 2 different voices. As for the game modes, there's a few different options, but it boils down to the same thing. The men's and women's are both exactly the same. They have the same animations, the same gameplay, same everything. They're just the heights are different, and height doesn't really matter at all in this game, so it doesn't matter. There's a career mode where you play as a coach of a national team, okay, who has players, it seems, from totally random countries, and you're supposed to be able to win tournaments and go through and recruit new players through this like weird scout and consultant system. You like unlock new scouts as you keep going, and then you're supposed to be able to turn players on your team into consultants who are help your scouts scout out new players, but I couldn't find that option anywhere in the game. Only the option to sell your current players. And the whole thing, you almost make like your own club, but you're also your own country because you have your own logo, but you also have your national team flag, and you also go to tournaments all over the world and recruit players from anyway. I know I guess they just didn't want to make your own club team because you're using a national team system, but yeah, it makes no sense, and the mode has no depth. Then there's online mode, which is probably the best one if I had to pick, but it's even buggier than the main gameplay, so that makes it pretty much unplayable, unfortunately. And some of the design choices they made in this game are just baffling. Each match in Spike Volleyball consists of a best 2 out of 3. The first 2 sets are to 15, and then if you have to play a tiebreaker, then that sets to 5. But every 5 points of the game, there is a timeout. There's nothing you can do in a timeout. They serve no purpose at all in the game. You're supposed to be able to substitute your players with each other and change your tactics, but first of all, substituting your players and changing your tactics has pretty much no outcome on the gameplay at all. It doesn't matter. So if there's anything nice I do have to say about this game, is that somewhere buried deep within this abomination is the framework for a volleyball game indoors that would actually be pretty fun. The idea of trying to trick your opponent's blockers on offense and try and get your attackers single blocks, and the idea that you're trying to do the opposite on defense, trying to read where your setter's trying to go. I think that read and react could be really fun gameplay, and then you add like a timing element into it like they did with the serving and passing, and I think you would actually have a really like fun to play volleyball game on your hands. Unfortunately, with Spike Volleyball, even aside from the presentation and bug and jankiness issues, it just doesn't feel like you're being rewarded or punished for the decisions you're making. Like, a lot of my best plays came from when I had a bad pass and my setter was diving like way outside the court, but threw up a perfect ball to the outside, and The blockers weren't set up properly, and I just scored easily. Like, honestly, a lot of the time it wasn't even good if I passed well or if I tried to get my players single blockers. I think in order to have a good volleyball game, you need to have that feedback, and spike volleyball doesn't really even come close to hitting that mark. But I think if there's one takeaway we have from this whole thing is that if there's a developer that actually puts even a minimum of time and effort and money into trying to make a good indoor volleyball game, I think it would be something really special and really spectacular. So overall, I give Spike Volleyball 3 Kevin Tillys out of 10. It's just super buggy. The gameplay isn't fun even when it is buggy. But once in a while, when you make that perfect pass, you find the middle, he dodges the block, you get the bounce. You're like, wow, there's something here. Not a lot, barely anything. But so we'll see if Big Ben Games continues to support this game. Maybe if they fixed a lot of the bugs and continue to maybe try and improve the gameplay and produce more content, it could actually be a game worth buying. But especially, they were charging $45 in the Steam store, which seems completely outrageous to me. This game would maybe be a decent buy at like $10, and I heard they were charging even more, like in the UK game stores, like 55 euros or something. So I would say definitely don't spend that much on this game. I suffered, so you don't have to make that same mistake. But I think it shows that there can be a really fun volleyball game in the future, and I hope we get it someday from a developer that cares a bit more. All right, this is Dan from 5-1 Volleyball. Little switch up from my usual content, but be back soon with more of my regular videos, and I hope you guys check those out.